The wait is over. You were waiting, right?
Oh, God. No. Please, no.
The end is nigh. Darwin and Cat are back.
On today's episode, we are going to take you inside radio, a little bit more behind the curtain to understand just what it's like to make radio. Well, what at least it used to be like. I think it's changed quite a bit in the last few years, but the way it was and largely still is a look behind the scenes at what goes into the audio sausage.
Oh, that's pretty gruesome. Yes. And Darwin, I thought we would start out by kind of defining one of the most important things in radio, and that's the listener. We had our typical listener, people who liked the show, but then we had some very special listeners. What were those called?
So there's various levels of listeners, so to speak. It's this idea in business of this 80-20 rule, which a small portion of your business, your customer base generates the majority of your sales. And we would call them the P1 for like people group one. Those are the people that rarely turn off your station and they're really important to your success. They're very dedicated, which can take a lot of forms. And then P2, maybe they share you with another station, maybe one or two. And then you got like the P3, which they kind of maybe listen to 4 or 5 stations. There's actually a P4 or 5, and I think even a P6.
That is deeper than I ever went.
Yeah, there were we only went to P3, but there's also then in that P1 group, and I also feel like some of them were P3s, but never 2, were the prize pigs, the people who tried to win every contest possible. And
didn't matter what it was.
Nope. It could be anything. And they just wanted all the prizes. And generally they were a pest. They were pests.
We had crappy prizes too. So if I was giving away like a ceramic kitten with an umbrella, people would desperately try to get that prize, not because they wanted it, because they're prize pigs.
Yeah, simply because of that. I loved how you called the listeners the Lit, but you kind of borrowed that name, right?
The Lit, I think we got that from Bob Green.
Yeah, Bob Green.
Bob Green, who had a booming voice in radio. He was on the station Magic that we've mentioned, which is sort of a mix of an oldies station, and the Lit's out there. And he had one of those, when people say a big fake radio voice, he kind of had a big fake radio voice, but we did borrow the Lit from him.
But that didn't end when he was off the air. He was always on the air.
Well, then I think we realized that maybe that's not a big fake radio voice. Maybe that's just how he talks.
He was wild. He was just unhinged, right?
So getting back to one of the cool things about working in radio was the private concerts that major bands did for just us radio geeks.
Yeah, you loved those. You really would get excited about those. So the record labels would show up, and they'd probably be someone they wanted us to play. They had a new single, something to promote because back then people found new music through radio. And what was your favorite memory of this?
Okay, so we had a few that I thought were really good. We had Nonpoint, we had Blue October, who had their day. They had that song Hate Me, which was like huge at the time. But my favorite, the best, was Papa Roach, Jacoby and the band. That's what you say when you can't remember the other guys' names. Jacoby and the guys. And it was literally Papa Roach with 15 radio people and like a plate of bagels. Right.
It was classy.
It was awesome. But this time, it was generally like just for us. But this time we had a couple of listeners, some contest winners join us. And do you remember their special request? The guy wanted to propose to his lady and have Jacoby stop the song and make a big announcement. And like, that's kind of a tall order. So we kind of had to go to Jacoby and say, hey, would you mind? And we were kind of like, oh, this isn't really right to ask. But he's like, yeah, cool. Yeah. What song do you want me to stop? So they were right in the middle of To Be Loved. And he said, stop. And he made this big announcement. And he said, and he just pointed to this listener. And the guy got on his knee, the listener. And his girlfriend just looked completely shocked. And he pulled out a ring and he proposed to her. And the whole time we have an intern filming this. And it was just like the most beautiful moment. And the intern promptly lost the tape.
Oh, that was so sad.
And then right after that, this effer called us every day for a year going, hey, do you guys have that tape of me proposing in front of Papa Roach? And we're like, yeah, let me get that.
We kept trying. I mean, we didn't have any way to get it, but I remember that was Jacoby was so cool. and he was all in on that idea already. He might have been my favorite of all the people we ever interacted with.
Oh, he was so great. He was so cool. He was like a really, really genuine person.
Do you think the intern actually ever hit record to begin with?
No, I think the lens cap was on. I think he never hit record.
We had some really mid quality, and we had some great interns, but then we had some that weren't so mid quality, right? They were.
Well, we had some that weren't even like radio or TV majors.
No.
They were just like doing like, I don't know, refrigeration repair, but they liked us. So they were our interns.
Yeah, they just kind of gave them to us one time, right? But we had a lot of things that interact with listeners. I think one of the biggest things was that listener did appreciate us, despite the fact we ruined the video part of it. But
I wonder if he's still bitter. I wonder if he's sitting around going, God, if we only had that tape, we wouldn't have gotten divorced.
It was our fault. We brought them to an end.
Probably. Are they still together?
Oh, I don't remember if they were. I remember the whole thing, though. And you did a great job of orchestrating that. That was really cool. They would bring us food. This became a thing. And you came up with a name I still use to describe food that listeners would make.
Listener loaf.
Perfect.
All right, so another thing about working in radio is listeners will bring you homemade food, and it could be baked, it could be fried, it could be anything, and it would show up in a pan. Well, usually they would just leave it with the receptionist with a note that said, "I hear Cat likes meat pies."
You heard wrong. Well, it was also not just our station. We had B95 and Magic and Fly, and we had all these stations.
Everybody got listener loaf, and we would share it with all the other stations. And I loved our listeners, but I was just a little squeamish. I would never touch it, but we had a lot of jocks who would just dig into something that's vaguely a shepherd's pie, but we're not sure.
We were starving, but we were smart enough to know that our health insurance wasn't that good.
We were poor, but we had standards.
Low standards, but we had them. We wouldn't. I think we would not touch the listener loaf. I was shocked sometimes that the listener loaf people would eat.
Well, sometimes I'd be like, I can't even tell what this is unless we send it out to a lab. We have no way of knowing.
There was one, I think it was making its own gravy. It was not. But the one time we would eat food is if we knew it came from a restaurant. This is one of the low points in our lives. Remember, we both put on a lot of weight at one point.
Well, yeah, the freshman 50, first year in radio.
Yeah, and it was around Christmas time, and we were very self-conscious about this. And Bella Napoli, which is a fantastic bakery, Italian bakery in the Albany area, somebody had sent over this big tray of Italian cookies, and we're Italian. We can't resist these, right?
Oh, Italian cookies, especially Christmas cookies. Oh, I'm all over that.
We both were, and we both had a handful, both hands full. And poor you, this was probably one of your, as I'm laughing, lowest moments. Cat takes a bite of a cookie. She's like, harm. And as she sits in the chair, the legs give out. And you're
in my defense, I was not overweight. I was bulking up for the winter. It's very cold in Albany. Yeah, that was horrible. That was really bad.
And
we've since dropped the weight. I have to say that.
You look good. But
thanks.
But you're sitting on the floor.
I'm like looking at my chair going, is this reinforced?
You're on the floor with these cookies in your hands and the white powder on your face from the...
It was not a good look.
And you're like, I broke a chair. What are you looking at?
Yeah, so what?
You were...
Move on, nothing to see.
And you just kept eating your cookies. That? You just kept eating those cookies like nothing happened.
They were from Bella Napoli. You'd finish them too.
I think I took one out of your hand. I was like, let me help you up. And I'm like, argh. So, but we learned, we learned not to do that. I mean, I can't think of any other listener loaf. I'm sorry.
That was terrible. Thank you.
It was.
Thank you.
I felt bad
reminding me
for you. You're welcome.
My secret shame, which is no longer a secret. No, I mean, you're in radio, you get fat, you break a chair. What are you going to do?
And everybody was in the break room. You were so humiliated. I felt bad for you. As I'm laughing, I'm like, I felt bad for you.
You didn't really, Darwin. You didn't really feel all that. You did? Okay, sure.
I did. Yeah. I do still now. Excuse me.
Hindsight's 2020 and leaves a wake of broken chairs. So why don't we talk about remotes?
All right, you're like, let's just change the subject. Let's move on. All right. So speaking of prize pigs, they'd show up at remotes a lot too.
Well, remotes are paid commercials, essentially, right? Radio
Yeah.
jocks get well above their normal rate to pretend that broadcasting live from a Hyundai dealership is good radio.
Which I was calling in on a cell phone and talking about whatever was on sale. It wasn't even like some cool setup. It was just,
Hey, Kat here at Hyundai. Just want to tell you about all the amazing specials going on with Hyundai Elantras, and you just want to shoot yourself in the face.
it was horrible. And the only people that would show up would be people that were the prize pigs. And we always had movie tickets to give away. I don't know why. Why was that a thing?
That must be the only prize we could get a hold of.
I don't know. It was always movie tickets. It was so weird.
It was movie tickets, and also the owner or the general manager would want to hop on the cell phone. Hey, I'm here with Len. He's general manager, and he's going to tell you about a few more great specials. He's like, come on down. We got coconut water. We got a little water with a cucumber in it, and we got cars. Did I tell you we got cars? And that would be like his big moment.
It was. He got to be on the radio, and everybody's turning the dial away. Rarely would someone show up. Nobody, I think, or they might just want to meet you. Sometimes they wanted to like see you in person. They would show up,
Which
to meet
was
you.
cool, which was always really nice. And I have to say, it paid a lot better than radio because a jock could get, at that time, $200-$300 for an appearance for just a couple of hours work, which is a lot better than being back in the studio.
I remember one remote I had to go on. This is so funny. It was at a cell phone store, and
Oh, lucky you.
yeah, so I called in I used my own phone. I didn't use one of theirs to record the breaks. I just remember the person in the store commenting on how good it sounded, and that she thought I had used one of their cell phones, and I had to break it to her. I used a competitor's phone because she.
Lady, I didn't use your piece of crap phone.
No, I did not. But that's why it sounded good. You're welcome. Yeah, those were awful. I mean, there were so many. I hated them. I know the money could be good, but sometimes I was just so tired. I didn't want to go stand at the, going kooky for a Suzuki or whatever it was
Right.
at the time. And granted, people need cars and they sell their brand. I get it. But
Sure.
those were soul crushing at times.
Well, also with the hours of morning radio, because sometimes they would be, we worked 6 days per week, and sometimes they'd be on a Sunday morning. So
Yeah.
we were not happy people.
Or after work or midday Saturday. It was
Mhm.
tough. Yeah. I mean, it was one of those ways because radio does not pay well and you do all these extras to make money wherever you can. And it's
Yeah.
hard to say no.
But granted, a lot of jobs are like that, where you have to grind, you have to put in overtime. But most jobs, you don't have to do like a wacky skit with the owner of a Chevy dealership.
No, really?
I'm guessing.
No, really. I'm trying to think of some of our more strange remotes. I was at a meat store once. That was odd.
Was that a gay bar?
No, it was not.
Oh,
Believe
not
it or
called the
not.
meat store? Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't the meat locker. Nope, it was.
The meat shovel?
We could go
What
on
did you
and
do at the
on.
meat store? Were you giving away pork chops?
They were not giving away pork chops, but they wanted me to talk about their chuck beef. They really were excited about it. It was just weird.
There's only so many ways to make it exciting, meaning no ways to make it exciting.
We never got the fun remotes though. B95 would get those. They'd be able to go to Guptill's, the ice cream shop, and they'd be like, they'd be peddling ice cream. They get free ice cream, and meanwhile we're
Those bastards. Meanwhile,
right.
grinding it out at the processing plant.
And I think
Live from the rendering plant, Darwin and Cat. Hey guys, we have a special going on here at the slaughterhouse. And you know what? Today the breeze is going the other way, so the smell isn't that bad. So come on down.
we took what we could get. There was one we did that was fun. It was at I forget the name of the business, but the guy's slogan was, "If your car is dead, have it crushed by red."
Right.
Do you remember? Yeah.
Yeah.
You crushed a car.
I crushed, and not by sitting on it. Thank you.
I wasn't gonna go there. It was, you got to push the button and you were afraid it was a machine. And he goes, "It's just one button. You can do it," and you did it.
That was one of the greatest moments of my life, to be able to crush a car. See,
It was a minivan, actually, wasn't it?
Yeah, even better.
How satisfying.
We got the family out though before I crushed it. I just want to put that out there.
But that was a fun remote, and people did show up to that. It was like, bring your dead car or come see us to have them come get your dead car. That one was fun.
Yeah, that was definitely a good one.
The reality is everybody in radio was pretty poor. And that's another inside radio thing here. Salaries are always way less than you think. And we've always made fun of ours a lot, but you really were amazed by the side hustles that happen in the office.
That's the thing. Everybody in the office, everyone had a side hustle. And there was the typical stuff. There was Amway, there was Pampered Chef. But the one that blew my mind was the sex toy side hustle.
You were just horrified by those, I think.
Well, listen, I'm not a prude, but I don't want to buy a triple donger next to Ruth from accounting. Like, to me, that's just kind of private and a little bit awkward. But they were like, whoa, look what I got. I'm like, oh my God, props to you. That fits. Cool.
We started to refer to them as it rhymes with trucker wear parties. Like, right?
Yeah,
we used to call them I don't know how, we swear a little, but I'm not sure I even want to say that. But yeah, it rhymes with trucker wear. How's that? And we did not want to go to those. They had parties though, and everybody at work would be coming in the next day and talking about, the various colors and shapes and sizes. And I'm not a prude either, but I did not want to know about that.
Come on, what's wrong with you guys? Were you guys raised like Amish? And we're like, no, I don't want to think about your butt plugs. I'm sorry, Susie.
I don't need to know about your needs in accounting at all.
Is it always accounting?
I don't know. We just seem to pick on them a lot. Well, there's departments too in radio there's accounting, of course, but there's a department there's two traffic departments. And there's the one where the traffic reports on the air, with like the, right, with the.
Right. And then there's the one that schedules all the commercial spots.
Which are called traffic.
Traffic. Yeah. Like, you couldn't think of another name?
I feel like the traffic department was really into these parties too. They were very into it.
I know who you're talking about.
You do. The one lady, make up a name for me. I don't want to give away this woman's name, but give me a name.
Estelle.
That's the name you pick? Estelle. I'm going to go with it.
Okay.
Nope, I'm going to go with it.
It's too late. You have to do it.
So whenever Estelle would bend over to pick something up, we noticed Estelle had a tramp stamp that said
Estelle.
Yeah. And we really wanted to know. But did we really want to know? Because then when we found out, we realized we didn't really want to know.
Yeah, you asked her what that was for. Do you remember what you said to her?
I said, Estelle, why'd you get your own name back there? And what did she say?
Well, so the fella could remember my name when he's back there.
I've always about asking questions, and rarely do I regret asking. That day I did.
Don't ask a question if you really don't want to know the answer, Darwin.
Why did that not cross my mind? That should have come into my brain and said, Darwin, think about this.
Why did I pick Estelle? I'm imagining her about 89 years old, but she probably was in her mid-30s.
I just rolled with Estelle.
Yeah, what are you going to do? It's too late.
It's the most ridiculous name for this story, but I love it. I mean, I got a free toaster once out of this whole thing.
Wow. Was it a good one or one of those like single slicer piece of shits?
It lasted like 10 years. It was cheap, but it lasted. So
I never got. Okay, now we're going to be like Laverne and Shirley, like actually counting how many lines in the script they had. How did you get a toaster and I didn't get a toaster?
There was this service. I don't know if you remember. They used to give radio stations all these prizes to give away, and they were usually something totally impractical as for a prize, like a toaster. And you were supposed to do these commercials that would air in exchange for these random prizes like Swiss Miss Cocoa, or it was very random. So the toaster was just sitting there. They tried to give it away on some other station and nobody had picked it up after 30 days. They tried to give it away again and nobody picked it up. And one of the promotions people who was leaving for another job at that point was cleaning out her desk. And she's like, Darwin, you want this? And it was a toaster. My toaster had literally died that morning. And I said, wow, yeah, this is the luck I have in life. I don't win the lottery, but when I need a new toaster, there it is.
Her boss probably said, you know what, give it to Darwin. He's so poor. He doesn't have any way to make toast.
They felt really sorry for me, and that's how I got it. Yeah, it was a setup is what you're saying.
Wasn't there like a gas card that people kept stealing in the office?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because if we took a station vehicle, you had to go to promotions and get the gas credit card. And you would have to, sign the log and what the mileage was, all that. And it started
business.
Yeah. Yeah. And it started disappearing. And I remember got this whole email. It was this whole like scandal. And they were saying they were going to check the security cameras at the gas station, which I didn't really believe.
Ooh, I'm so scared.
But people were so poorly paid that toward the end of the pay period, they were actually stealing the credit card to go put $20 in their tank. And I just thought that was so sad. I mean, totally immoral and wrong. But at the same time, people were paid so poorly. I feel like they didn't feel guilty about doing it.
Right. Well, nothing was sacred. And you had to pretty much nail everything down. Like even our headphones would get stolen if we didn't lock them up or take them with us. I'm not really super proud of this, but at some point, my Sony headphones, which were really nice, kept getting stolen so often. I wrote Big Hairy Pussy as an anti-theft device.
I remember
on my
that.
Headphones. Yeah. And that was an homage to Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And it worked.
And what did I write on mine? Do you remember?
I think you wrote gay sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one's
Yeah.
going to steal those headphones.
No, gay sex and big hairy pussy. And we're like, we're fine. We can leave bricks of gold here. They won't get stolen if we write that on them.
And remember for a while, because I'm lactose intolerant, you inspired not only to write those things in the headphones, but you inspired, I was bringing almond milk, and almond milk was a new thing then. It was like soy milk and almond milk. And actually, it might have even been soy milk. And I was bringing it in a smaller container to put in the fridge because we'd have breakfast at maybe a snack, I don't know, while we were on the air. And I couldn't have regular milk, but somebody kept drinking it. So I took a Sharpie and I wrote on my little container, breast milk. And do you remember when the owner of the company was in the break room and I walked in and he's holding this container in his hand and he looks at me and he says, how did this get here? And I'm like, oh, that's mine.
Yeah, Darwin's pumping.
And I just said it so like casually, oh, that's mine, not thinking of what it said on the bottle. And he was so concerned about it. And then I poured it on my cereal and put it back. And he just looked at me like he was going to pass out. And I go, oh, no. It's not actually what it says.
People kept stealing Darwin's breast milk. So he just.
I wasn't drinking breast milk. It was just an anti-theft deterrent. And it
Exactly.
nobody touched it. Although that's not true, because then we hired, there must have been somebody new. Because remember one day I'd started noticing it disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just really concerning that somebody actually saw it labeled that and was actually, yeah. There were some creepy parts.
This will go good in my Sanka.
No, wait, it wasn't really breast milk. Why am I going? It was
Sanka.
It was my make-believe breast milk. All right. These are the desperate things we did just to make sure nobody stole our things. And then when it came to giving away things, our sales department, because we were the redheaded bastard stepchild station, they didn't really put in the effort. So B95, they'd get a beautiful new car to give away, right? A brand new car, right? Except for, what did they give us? Big promotion.
They gave us a piece of shit truck with a brand new wrap on it that said Hinder, the band Hinder.
With their
Remember them?
faces.
With their faces on it. Oh, but what's that over there in the corner? Whose faces are those? It's Darwin and Cat.
So they put the most unflattering photo of us on this truck next to Hinder's faces.
We
which,
looked
by
like
the way,
we were in mid-sneeze.
it was horrible. It was I don't even know if I have that photo anywhere anymore.
Blah.
But remember, why did we end up with Hinder? We wanted a different band.
Yeah, we tried desperately to get Metallica, but they're like, absolutely not.
Lars wasn't having it.
No.
I don't blame him. I don't. So we had this whole contest set up, and we finally got a sponsor for it. Well, the truck, by the way, was sponsored by this really shady used car dealership.
Sure, I got a truck for you. Come on down. We'll even put a wrap on it.
And so we get this wrap on it, and then the arena football team at the time, who nobody went to their games, decided they were going to sponsor the contest, and we were going to give away the truck at the arena. So it's now I don't even know what it's called now. It's not the Time Union Center anymore. It's like I don't know what it is now.
But it was the Win Hinders truck sponsored by Arena Football with Darwin and Cat. It had the clunkiest names
Ever. And it kept going on and on and on. So the whole thing was people actually showed up to this game. We gave away, what was it, 100 or 200 CDs?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. And people had to come down and put their CD into the CD player of the truck. And if it played, they won.
And
right?
it was, yes. And
no. Hold on. There weren't 100 CDs. There were 100 CD cases, but only 5 of them had a CD in it. That's what it was.
Aha.
So the 5 people come down to the middle of the arena, and I had to drive the truck in because it was stick. Nobody could drive a stick shift. We forgot that part.
Right? Okay. You had special skills.
Yeah. And you were riding in the bed of it, and I drive it in the middle of the arena, and they come in, we got the microphone up to the speaker, and there's these 5 people lined up, and 4 of them look exactly like you would expect a listener to the Edge to look like. But the one, well,
gay as a purple clarinet.
Very. I mean, and I can say this, like, he was the gayest gay that ever gayed, ever.
Where you turn down the flame, buddy.
Yeah, he was like just short of basically wearing a feather boa.
I'm loving it. I'm totally loving it. I always thought we had like a diverse range of listeners out there, and this guy's like, hello.
And I looked over at you and I said, he's going to win the damn truck. You watch.
And I said, yeah, I bet you're right.
Because how else can our whole promotion go any more wrong at this point? And sure enough, he puts in the CD and the audio says, hey, it's Hinder. And you won our truck. And he
squealed like a 15-year-old K-pop star.
Yeah. Shrieked, screamed, shook the entire arena. And then we said, here's your keys. You got to drive it out of here. And of course, remember, it's a stick shift. So it's like bucking. It's like, and he's like, all the way out of the arena.
Ironically, the gay guy could not drive a stick.
And the irony kept getting deeper and deeper because as he bucked the thing out of the arena, we thought, we'll never see this thing again. We're never doing a promotion like this again.
And he's going to drive this thing straight into a wall.
We expected that, right? So 3 weeks go by, and I call him just the super gay with the feather boa because, he's driving along alternate 7 and this damn thing burst into flames.
Hinder's truck blew up. Thank God he wasn't hurt. No one was hurt, but the car was incinerated. The truck was incinerated.
Oh, yeah. And when we saw pictures of it, though, the only evidence of the contest left were our faces melted on the side of the road, as if that picture couldn't look worse. And he called us on the air and he was screaming about it. Like, I'm going to sue you. And
my Hinder truck blew up and I'm going to sue you and you're going to do something about it.
No. He was like, my Hinder truck blew up. You got to get that in there, Cat.
Thank you for the accuracy. Okay. I appreciate it.
I'm going to sue you. What are we going to do?
What could we do at that point? I mean, just give him a couple of coupons for Jiffy Lube. I mean, we were powerless. We could not do anything for this guy.
No, it was just, I didn't feel bad for him either because that contest, I'm not going to lie, that contest was such a train wreck because interns couldn't drive the truck. I'd be getting a call at 4 p.m. It's stuck somewhere. Can you come move it? Because somehow I was the only employee that could drive it.
Okay, I'll tell you a secret right now. I know how to drive a stick. I learned to drive on a stick shift. I just never told anyone because I didn't want to drive that damn truck.
You kept that?
Yeah, I can drive a stick shift. Oh, absolutely.
I suffered.
Give me a clutch, baby.
I suffered.
Yeah.
That truck became my problem. And you could have helped the whole time.
It's the easiest thing for a girl to go, I don't know. There's so many sticks. What do you do?
There are other times picking winners where I think when you asked me, how do we pick a winner? And I threw the papers on the floor and shuffled them. And I go, step on one.
Yeah. There was one time where you threw them on the floor and said, okay, roll around in them and stretch your arms out and grab one. And that's the winner.
I was trying to get creative. I don't know if everyone did it that way. Yeah. And also, if you called a caller 7 or whatever you need and 2 people call, you're just going to have to pretend one of them is going to be caller 7.
Now you're really opening up the playbook.
Next, what else do people call?
Next, you're going to say there is no such things as requests. You know why? Because there is no such thing as a request.
Nope.
Oh, Jeff from Schenectady wanted to hear Megadeth. Well, yeah, he did. And we happen to be playing it anyway.
Well, that's what it always was. If somebody called and requested the Red Hot Chili Peppers and maybe they wanted Danny California, but I had Californication coming up, I could just edit the phone call to be Red Hot Chili Peppers. Because what's the chance of them requesting something that's coming up? It's pretty high. And you just say, oh, I just played that. I was listening all morning. I didn't hear it. Oh, you must have been in the bathroom. I mean, there are even all request shows. Rarely, once in a while, there's a station out there that'll play the request. But even an all request show was always completely fake. And there was a phone bank you could pull from of fake requests too. And so, yeah, there are no requests. We didn't ever, actually, it was a fireable offense to pick our own music. You remember that?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And when you think about it, so let's break down requests are a myth. DJs do not pick their own music. So there's actually no real reason for a jock to be live on air. I mean, unless you're doing a morning show and you're getting your bits on the air, you're just there to push a product, which is the music, and satisfy your advertisers.
Yeah, that's kind of painful.
To think about.
Commercial radio wonders why they're dying. This is kind of it. This is a formula that worked great in the 80s that they've never evolved or changed on.
And now they're dead. And we tried to tell them. We said, hey, guys, podcasts are coming. They're like, you crazy kids and your funny words.
And they would freak out about, remember the whole thing with satellite radio? They freaked out about it, but yet they came in and they wanted us to give away an iPod when those were new on the air. And I remember, do you remember this promotions meeting where I got kind of mad about it? I said, you all freak out that there's satellite radio out there, which is radio. They're still listening to radio, but you want to give them an iPod full of music that we play and just cut us totally out of the equation, cut radio totally out. And nobody listened to me.
They're like, yeah, what's the problem with that? It's like, don't you see it coming?
No, they didn't. They had no foresight for that whatsoever. It just was like, man. Yeah, and I loved it. There were times because I was music director, I scheduled the music. That was part of my job, was to get the rotations and everything there. So I think there were times in the morning show we wanted to play something. I could get away with it because I was the guy in charge of that.
Yeah, you had a little bit of autonomy there.
I could pull it off. I mean, it was a song we were playing. I could move it around. And we did that sometimes as well. Also, I will confess, there were some bands we played or artists we played that I just felt like did not belong in the station. And they were awful. And you might know that you're probably thinking of a few. I would schedule them toward the end of the hour, which we'd call the drop song. So if you get toward the legal ID at the end of the hour, sometimes there's 2 or 3 songs that would just get dropped.
Got to make up for the hour. Goodbye.
And that's what I would do. I would just constantly, especially in our show, I would always schedule songs or artists that we couldn't stand in the drop song category.
Right. Well, occasionally we had people above us or new people who would come in and say, hey, I really want to push this band for whatever reason. If we hated the song, it might fall off a cliff. It was an accident. Poor guy. He was depressed.
I also would argue with banishment about what I considered some of the stupid rules of radio. For example, you can't play 2 female artists in a row.
That's an old rule that I can't stand. And now it's already getting to be like kind of a dinosaur, but there's still satellite radio, and they'll have like the women in rock station. There'll be specialty stations, but for regular rotation, still on the radio, I still generally don't hear 2 females in a row.
And people still follow that stupid rule. It made no sense to me because it was just, come on, let's see, men programming radio. Let's come down, let's just say what it is, right? It's misogyny.
Nah.
But I had to fight because the only female artist we played was Evanescence. Do you remember this? And I would fight.
Yeah, and in this moment.
Oh, that later on we did. We did with another, And I said, for example, we were playing some alt rock mixed in, and I was a big fan, and I think you were too, of playing Hole. I think
absolutely.
There were some great Hole songs that would have fit. Or Garbage was another one that would have fit the format. And we had to really argue that nobody wants to hear chicks with a piano. That was the answer I got. Which is Evanescence, by the way.
It's like not everybody is Lilith Fair. There was some really good, harder music that we were trying to get out there, but
You had to fight that. And there were some, for example, if you are programming a station, you don't want to have Fiona Apple and Sarah McLachlan right next to each other.
Right. Because that would be bad traffic.
You got it. It's not a good segue. You are playing chicks with pianos at that point, basically. But it doesn't mean they shouldn't be played on the station. And 2 women together, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as musically the song is different.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with 2 chicks right next to each other together.
Listen to me. I'm the one saying it too, of all people, right? There were a lot of these arbitrary rules behind the scenes too. We are letting people in on the secret sauce, but the reality is most radio you listen to now, the people are not there. They may not have even ever been to the city you live in. That's another one. Remote voice tracking from far away. They may have never, ever been in whatever market. You might hear someone on the air who's on, 6, 7, 8 stations somewhere else.
Right, professing their love for country. And then they're doing a rock station. And then they're doing the mom music station.
And granted, there's nothing wrong with, I'm not slighting the people who do that. We have a really good friend we worked with who does that. That is her living.
She's brilliant at it.
She's really good on the air. And but she has to do that because full-time jobs where you're live on the air are far and few now, because everybody just wants to basically pre-record it, which is also hurting radio even more. Maybe the morning show's live, right? I think that's about it.
Maybe. I mean, maybe some places still have like a local, there's still local morning shows, local sports morning shows, but by and large, it's all kind of syndicated.
And canned. I really do believe our show was fun and people loved it because we did talk about what was going on and you could get a hold of us. And there was an element to being live that was really important to our craft and our art. But I can't believe the radio industry has just let that go. That was something great they had. Just let it go.
It's dead. It's gone.
Yeah.
And
sadly.
here we are.
Now we're doing a podcast because I feel
Which we warned them about.
But I feel like we can reach someone who, now, granted, if a radio station reached out to us and said, we'd love to have you take segments of your podcast and syndicate it or use it on our morning show, we wouldn't say no to that because I still believe in radio, but it needs some innovation, and it needs the innovation that podcasts are into.
Which I don't know if it's going to happen.
No, because the people in charge are not innovative. They're clinging to an old playbook that they are comfortable with, but you got to give up that comfort and try something different if you want to survive.
Time and temp on the 8s.
Yeah, and it's
Throw it
just
to
like
the traffic and 10 songs an hour.
10 songs in a
Keep it
row.
light.
Yeah.
Keep it light and move it along.
And those things are, I mean, not time and temperature, but even the weather, that'd be nice to get updated, right? So that's
Sure.
one thing that's local, but otherwise.
Especially if you're in a place with weather like New York. Growing up in Southern California, it's still kind of hazy out and same temperature as yesterday. Okay.
Yeah, pre-record it and use it forever. We also would get, once in a while, I think, earlier we mentioned everybody acted like, everyone always treated us like we weren't going to behave, but yet we were the behaved people, which was always kind of funny on the rock station.
Our manners were excellent as long as we got enough sleep and had snacks.
Right. And we never passed up the opportunity for free food if it was not made by a listener. And I was thinking about, you reminded me of one time too, that the advertisers would often, especially if they spent a lot of money, they could kind of make this broad demand. They wanted one of them was a grocery store chain, Price Chopper.
Mm-hmm.
And they made a demand. They wanted all of our talent to come to this media event. And of course, we didn't get told about it till the day of, I think the management did. And they said, and this always bugged me, they would tell us, now we need you two to behave.
Why do they have to treat us like we couldn't be out with other humans in public?
All the time, right? And we would behave. We would also be, but they were kind of right in this one situation. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Oh, the sandwich guy?
Yes. So they were opening a New York style deli in one of their stores. And actually, it was one of the stores we stayed in the RV that we're going to talk about next episode, where they left us to die. So we go to this and the CEO is there and he's talking about how New York City delis, they're legendary. He's standing up there and everything's going great. And we're going to get free deli food and it looks good. But he stands up there and we have done good. But I think what happened is they jinxed us because they told us to behave like we're children. I need your help in describing this. He stands up there and he's talking about a sandwich that's called a Woody Allen.
It's called a Woody Allen, and he kind of opened his hand like to show how thick something is, and he was kind of waving it around.
Like, how would you describe this gesture?
Yeah, just kind of back and forth, like, look how thick.
And he goes, does anyone know how thick Woody Allen is? And we lost it. Maybe
soon he knows.
He had a big handful of Woody Allen up in the air.
That was a thick Woody right there.
And he's going back and forth.
Have you ever seen such a thick Woody Allen?
And our boss turns around, looks us dead in the eye.
Yeah, like daddy, like, don't you say anything. I remember that moment. I was like, okay.
But meanwhile, inside, we're dying because this guy is standing up there making this hand gesture, which is very adjacent to some other inappropriate hand gesture, and asking out loud, does anyone know how thick Woody Allen is? We kept it together, though. We did.
I was proud of us.
We snacked down on that food because if we didn't eat, we were going to laugh.
Woody was perfectly thick and tasty.
I'm glad you found out for sure yourself.
I had to investigate.
So these are the things that go on in the background, right? That it's just like this hodgepodge. I think this episode really we wanted to talk about. Did we cover everything? I mean, there's so much to talk about, but I think we covered a lot of.
We gave Inside Radio 101.
Pretty much. There's one other thing I think we should talk about too. We mentioned the music. It's all on a hard drive. There are no CDs. There are no vinyls. Maybe occasionally if the system goes down, you go grab a CD.
Well, back in the day, you would see the jock carefully select an album, take it out of its sleeve, place it on the turntable, maybe have some carts ready to run commercials. No, that's long gone.
Carts were like giant cassette tape. Well, they were kind of like a small 8-track. I had to use those when I started out working in an antique station. But all the music is not, that's another thing I think people realize is that it's all computerized and it's just kind of just there. I mean, I think we just gave away all the secrets, right?
It sounds very soulless.
It does. Yeah. And that's another thing. Like, I didn't mind it all computerized because if you had to run the bathroom, whatever, it's fine. But there's nobody there operating the computer. And I think they let something good go.
Well, speaking of running to the bathroom, I mean, back in the day, you would just put on a Led Zeppelin song and then go do your business.
I mean, the best time to take a bathroom break was Thanksgiving when every damn station played Alice's Restaurant for 25 minutes, I don't know, 17 minutes, whatever it is. I was guilty of that once. The automation went down at another station at EQX, and I put on a really, really long song, and I'd had some stomach bug, and it was something they didn't even play, but the automation was down. I forgot what it was. It was just some, I don't know, Anagata Vita or whatever. It was like Inagata Vita. Yeah, sorry. I said that wrong.
Onomatopoeia. Yeah.
Yeah. But I had to poop. So that's what
tell me if I'm wrong here. I just had a revelation. I've heard the term in radio dump song.
That's it. You never knew that?
Song. No, I just figured that out.
Yeah.
All these years later.
So there you go. That is a little inside radio, and through our experiences as well. And I actually got answers to questions today, and you got answers too.
Yeah, and I relived a very painful moment as well.
That's right, the whole Woody Allen thing.
I think it was more painful for the chair.
I'm so sorry. I still feel bad.
No, it's okay. I'm a in shape little thing right now, batting my eyelashes at you. It's okay.
And you do look great. You really do.
Oh, well, thank you. What's squeaking? Is that my chair?
It's crying a little bit. I'm kidding.
Help me. Next time on Darwin and Cat.
We call and we're like, yo, we have no heat. This isn't good. And they said, can you get on the air and see if one of our listeners works for a propane company? Maybe they can come fill it.
You're saying we should get on the air and beg to not freeze to death.
Basically.
Yeah.